Life has a funny way of changing the questions. Before we leave secondary school, we spend roughly 15,000 to 20,000 hours in classrooms, which is approximately 2 years of our lives. That's thousands and thousands of hours learning English, mathematics, chemistry, history, and countless other subjects designed to shape our futures. Yet, if I were to ask you about that one lesson that changed you the most, chances are it wouldn't come from a classroom. Because life asks very different questions. With life, the questions are no longer about equations or definitions. They're about resilience when things fall apart. They're about courage when all you need is the audacity of hope. They're about empathy when someone else is hurting. And they're about integrity when nobody is watching. Now take a moment and think about that one lesson that changed you the most. The lesson that reshaped your thinking, that altered how you saw yourself, that divided your life into a before and an after. Now ask yourself, where did you learn it from? A startling observation, right? That same observation may sound strange in a room that values education. After all, schools matter. They open doors, create opportunities, and provide us with knowledge that takes us to unimaginable places. But I've come to the realization that most of the important lessons we learn in life are outside, aren't always taught through formal education. William Blake once said, "How can a bird born for joy and freedom sit in a cage and sing?" He was speaking of a schoolboy that was trapped in a system that stifles natural curiosity. And I think about that so much. Because if education becomes a cage instead of a pair of wings, we have not truly educated a child. We have merely taught them to blend in, rather than giving them the freedom to think, imagine, and discover who they truly are. In fact, the linguist and philosopher Noam Chomsky, the most quoted author in the world, once remarked that a lot of schooling is just training for conformity and stupidity. Now, before anyone reports me to my teachers, I don't think Chomsky was trying to demean the value of schools. I certainly do not. What I do think is he was pointing towards something deeper. Schools teach information. True learning shapes character. And I've experienced that firsthand. Through something surprisingly ordinary. The day I became someone's older sister. Like most siblings, we had argued earlier that day. And in my mind, I was the injured party. I was angry, I was vexed, and disappointed. Disappointed largely because she had talked back to me. And as a typical African elder sister, that was a big no-no. Then I heard crying. At first, I ignored it. She must tender an unreserved apology, otherwise face the consequences of her actions. But the crying didn't stop. And when I finally looked over, she had tears streaming down her face. And the truth is, I had no idea what to do. Nobody teaches you moments like this. Nobody teaches you that not all olive branches come wrapped up as eloquent apologies. In that moment, the arguments that previously felt so important suddenly became non-existent and small. She looked at me with the kind of trust only a younger sister could, like as if I knew how to help or had the right words to say. So instead of walking away, I took a step, then another, then a stride. not solving the problem with the perfect words, but my presence was enough. And something shifted inside of me that moment. Responsibility isn't always about being right or getting your way, but sometimes just being there. And that day, I understood that being an elder sister isn't a title I earned, but a person I was becoming. In sociology, there is a concept called the hidden curriculum, which are the unwritten lessons students learn alongside formal education. These are the values, the habits, the experiences, and expectations that are never listed on a syllabus. But I believe the hidden curriculum is much bigger than that. I believe life itself is the hidden curriculum. A curriculum that teaches us through first-hand experiences and perfect imperfections. One of the earliest lessons I learned as a child is that wisdom and knowledge are not the same thing. Knowledge tells you what is true, and wisdom teaches you what to do with it. Knowledge is information, wisdom is transformation. And if that has taught me anything, it's that wisdom usually shows up through ordinary moments. Moments that challenge us, change us, humble us, and shape us to the people we become today. And that brings me to what troubles me. Because if these lessons are so important, why do we act as if they don't count? We celebrate what can be measured, we grade what can be recognized, and we recognize what can be proven. But show me the certificate for the year you held your family together. Show me the grade for the moment you admitted you were wrong and chose to grow. Show me the transcript for the year you fell apart, rebuilt yourself, and kept going. There isn't one. Because we have built a world that is exceptionally good at measuring what goes into us and completely blind to what we become. The question is not whether life has been teaching you. The question is now whether you've been paying attention. So I want to leave you with a simple practice. At the end of every week, ask yourself one question. What did life teach me this week that I wasn't expecting? Write down the answer. One sentence is just enough. Because the moment you name a lesson, you begin to understand it. And once you understand it, it becomes a part of who you are. For classrooms that give us opportunity, knowledge, we should be grateful. But as Jess Layer once said, children are not things to be molded, but people to be unfolded. And I believe most of that unfolding happens in places no syllabus can reach. There is an African proverb written by Chinua Achebe, the great African writer. Quote, "Until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter." End quote. I think the same is true of our lessons. If we fail to notice them, we risk overlooking the very experiences that shape us. So perhaps the most important education doesn't always take place within four walls. Maybe the minutest of things are beyond ordinary, because extraordinary people are rarely formed through extraordinary moments. So start to pay attention to the hidden curriculum. And whatever you do, do not waste it. Thank you.